India's unilateral actions of 5th August 2019 of altering the status of occupied Jammu and Kashmir, recognized as a disputed territory by the UN Security Council, are illegal under international law. With these illegal changes, India's presence is, by its own yardstick, a naked foreign occupation. These measures contravene the 4th Geneva Convention that prohibits migration to and from an occupied territory. They are also a flagrant violation of several UN Security Council resolutions. India's assertion that these actions are its internal affair is patently false.
I wish to inform the Council that Article 370 was a temporary provision of the Indian Constitution. The recent modifications of Article 370 is within our sovereign right and entirely an internal matter of India. The decision removes impediments to the enjoyment of civil, political, social, economic and cultural rights of our citizens in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, especially those dealing with women, children and disadvantaged sections of our society in that region. Jammu and Kashmir has been, is and shall continue to be an integral part of India.
Distinguished delegates, India's effort to hide its atrocities in the Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir by falsely labeling it terrorism and cross-border terrorism are shameless and indefensible. Pakistan has suggested a number of bilateral and multilateral mechanisms that would disprove India's self-serving claims.
Pakistan realizes that our recent decision cuts the very ground from under its feet by creating obstacles in its continuing sponsorship of cross-border terrorism against India. In this desperate mind frame, some Pakistan leaders have even gone as far as to call for jihad and to encourage violence both inside Jammu and Kashmir and in third countries.
I shudder to mention the word genocide here, but I must. With respect to the Genocide Convention, the Kashmiri people in the occupied territory as a national, ethnic, racial and religious group of people face grave threats to their lives, way of living and livelihoods from a murderous, misogynistic and xenophobic regime.
In order to paint a picture of genocide, which even they know is far from reality, Pakistan has today pretended to speak as a voice of global community on human rights. But the world cannot be fooled. Pakistan's gory record speaks for itself.
At the root of this mayhem is India's refusal to grant the people of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir their right of self-determination. This 7-decade-old travesty of justice has been compounded by the present Indian government's nefarious and twisted dream, outlined explicitly in the ruling party's manifesto, to turn by force of arms Jammu and Kashmir's Muslims majority into a minority.
This rhetoric will not distract international attention from Pakistan's persecution and elimination of religious and ethnic minorities, be it Christians, Sikhs, Shias, Ahmadiyyas and Hindus. This is the reason that Pakistan no longer publishes official statistics about its minorities as India does. Blatant abuse of blasphemy laws in Pakistan to persecute minorities is well documented. Asia Bibi, the Christian woman, was incarcerated for years. So was Abdul Shakur, the 82-year-old Ahmadiyya, under Anti-Terrorism Act for selling books. The recent case of abduction, forced conversion and marriage of a minor Sikh girl exemplifies the state of women, especially from the minority communities in Pakistan. And today in this council, Pakistan has the audacity to tell others about human rights that it so egregiously violates again and again.
Traumatized towns, mountains, plains and valleys of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir reverberate today, and with the grim reminders of Rwanda, Srebrenica and the Rohingya and the pogrom of Gujarat. The people of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir are apprehending the worst. Some have said that Kashmir echoes with the silence of the graveyard. Others contend that it is a lull before a storm. One international civil society organization based in the United States has already issued a genocide alert proclaiming that the situation in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir has crossed the 10 stages of the genocidal process.
India holds the credentials of being the world's largest democracy. Our constitution guarantees fundamental rights to all our citizens without distinction. Our independent judiciary, free media, vibrant civil society provides an effective framework for protection of human rights. My government is taking affirmative actions by adopting progressive policies to promote socio-economic equality and justice. As a result of recent legislative measures, these progressive policies will now be fully applicable to our citizens in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh.
To constitute an independent commission of inquiry to investigate and report human rights violations in Jammu and Kashmir. I reiterate from this platform Pakistan's endorsement of the recommendations of these reports. We urge focused discussions on the two reports in the Human Rights Council and a unanimous decision by this House to implement their recommendations made to India, Pakistan and foremost to the Human Rights Council.
The decisions were taken by our Parliament after a fully televised debate and enjoys widespread support. These were sovereign decisions, entirely internal to India. No country can accept interference in its internal affairs, certainly not India.
The Human Rights Council must pay heed to the plight of the Kashmiri people and address the warning signs of a looming catastrophe. For this, the Council should immediately take the following steps. 1. Urge India to immediately stop the use of pellet guns, end the bloodshed, lift the curfew, reverse the clampdown and communications blackout, restore fundamental freedoms and liberties, release political prisoners, stop targeting human rights defenders, and fulfill obligations under the United Nations Security Council resolutions and various human rights instruments as required by international law.
Despite challenging circumstances, Jammu and Kashmir civil administration is ensuring basic services, essential supplies, mobility and connectivity. Democratic processes have been initiated, restrictions are being eased continuously, temporary preventive measures were needed to ensure security in the face of credible threats of cross-border terrorism.
For the last 6 weeks, over 8 million Kashmiris already in the clutches of decades-long Indian oppression have been virtually caged by an illegal military occupation that has swelled in ranks within days from 700,000 to nearly 1 million troops. To what end, I ask, Mr. President? The answer is obvious, and it lays bare the real character of a country that pretends to be a bastion of democracy, federalism and secularism. For the last 6 weeks, India has transformed occupied Jammu and Kashmir into the largest prison on this planet.
One delegation here has given a running commentary with offensive rhetoric of false allegations and concocted charges against my country. The world is aware that this fabricated narrative comes from the epicenter of global terrorism, where ringleaders are sheltered for years. This country conducts cross-border terrorism as a form of alternate diplomacy. National Register for Civil Rights is a statutory, transparent, non-discriminatory legal process mandated and monitored by the Supreme Court of India. Its implementation will comply with Indian laws. As a responsible member of the international community, India firmly believes in a constructive approach to promote and protect human rights. My full statement will be on the HRC internet. I thank you all.
ये है ABP न्यूज़, आपको रखे आगे।